Hey everybody, it's Odd Dust and welcome back into the mosh pit. And I wanted to talk about the start of the league. When I start playing, I don't mind pressing all the buttons. I get to a place where I want to press the buttons for my attack. I'm recasting golems sometimes, or maybe I'm pressing my mana flask. I never quite remember to press my quicksilver that much for some reason. I don't know if you're like me, but I usually run along going, man, I wish I had some movement speed. And I go, oh yeah, all I gotta do is press this button a couple of times. I always forget. I don't know why. But by the time I hit maps, I'm usually not pressing, some of the flasks at least. I have enough regen, life regen, or mana regen where maybe I've fully eliminated my mana flask. I don't really ever have to press the life flask unless I'm in a bit of a bind. I have enchantments on my other utility flasks, so they're just going off automatically anyway, that kind of thing. But I still like pressing my curses. It's like get into a little rhythm where I run into a group, hit curse, hex, whatever, throw down a flag and fight around my banners, or I'm pressing attacks multiple times instead of just hold down a button and run through. And I kind of, I wanted to do this video because I actually like being more active in my combat, at least at the beginning of a certain character, maybe not even just the beginning of the league, just like when I'm starting off a build and, right when I get into maps, I'm still enjoying pressing the multiple different buttons to kind of hit my little combo of things that I like to do, run in, throw down the flag, press a curse, spin around in a circle, smash some people, do the combo of things that get me the win and then move on to the next pack, do that same combo of things, hit the boss, maybe throw a mark on the boss, those kinds of things. Just being more active with the gameplay, I actually really enjoy that. But usually right around the time when I get done with my Atlas, maybe I'm working on some in-game, I got maybe one Void Stone left, something like that, I start wanting to be a little bit lazier because at this point, I've got, cast when damage taken or cast on crit, something like that, or I've got an automation set up or I've got some triggered skills somewhere on a ring, maybe, just things that make farming become a little bit more fun without having to press a lot of buttons. Because, if you're starting to farm things, no matter what it is, the piano key playing is not as fun as, when you're first starting out in maps. You're running 100 of whatever in a row. The last thing you want to do is have to press so many things and keep track and watch it. You're at a kind of turn the brain off, listen to some heavy metal and just blast some maps or blast some bosses or whatever it is. And speaking of which, as far as like what keys to press, in Path of Exile 2, I actually like really, I don't know if this is okay to say, but I really like the controller. It feels really good. I over WASD and click to move, it just feels easier to me to play on controller in Path of Exile 2 just because of how smooth it is and the dodging and dashing around and doing attacks. I don't know. I like the controller. And I think, once you can swap, I know they've been working on it, but once you can swap on the fly between controller and mouse and keyboard, I think that's going to be something that I do a lot more often, actually, because it's just so much easier on my wrists than having them up on the desk. I'm on the computer for my job all the time. So if I get on the computer for my gaming as well, it's just so much hands up in that position that sometimes having them down in my lap is just a little bit easier on the wrists. And, if they figure out a way to have it where you can swap on the fly without having to log all the way back out to the character selection or to the login screen for controller, I might actually even use it on PoE 1. Who knows? I've tried it before where I have tried playing on the Steam Deck with controller, and I really just did not like it at all in its current configuration. So we'll see what the future holds. But I wasn't sure how everyone else felt about this. Like, do you have preference on your builds when you're first starting out? I mean, at the beginning of any character build, you kind of have to press all the buttons because you don't have the items to enchant your flasks, and you don't yet have the ability to do a lot of the automation and cast when whatever has happened, triggered stuff. But eventually, like, where's your threshold on when you expect your build to become a little bit more one button and a little bit less piano key? And what's your preferred playstyle? Are you hoping that WASD comes to PoE 1, or is that the kind of playstyle you like, or do you use controller ever? I know my thoughts on controller are not shared by everybody, and I usually will play Path of Exile 2 actually with point to move, click to move, because the controller itself feels great, but then inventory management is complete ass. So I'm just kind of waiting for them to add that feature in, and I'm just curious what everyone else feels. You know, I thought I'd throw this video out there, just kind of get an opinion on everybody. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, a like would help a lot, and subscribe if you want to hear more just opinion type videos, and I'll see you guys later.